Today we're going to learn how to blend colored pencils, how to finish off our comic book face, and how to use the colored pencils to add a little bit of shading and a little bit more detail and depth to the face that we have drawn. From there you can spend your time continuing to practice drawing different types of faces, and you can also spend the time practicing with color blending or with writing your story of what life would be like if art did not exist. For some of you guys, we were not able to get to the hair, so I wanted to explain why I have two lines. I have a line here and a line at the top. That top one is the actual top of your head. The bottom one is your hairline. Everyone has a hairline where their hair actually starts, and those two are actually two separate places on your head. If you look at anyone, especially someone who doesn't have bangs, there's a little bit of space between where their hair starts and where the actual top of their head is, where their head ends. So we don't want to just draw hair right here on top of the head. We also want to draw some hair between here and here. So say for instance you wanted to give yourself straight hair with maybe a part down the middle. We would draw a line down the middle, that's where your hair parts. And then you would just draw the hair on either side. You could do straight hair, and mine's going to look pretty funky because I'm going to do two different types of hair. I'm going to do straight hair on this side. And I'm not going to worry too much about how it looks because eventually I'm going to be coloring over this anyway. On the other side I could do, I'm going to draw curly hair just so that you kind of have an idea, alright? But once again, we're not just going to do curly hair up here on the top of the head. We're going to start at the bottom and just kind of do layers of curls. You could draw it going over your ear if you want to. We're going to draw line by line, because if you have curly hair, that's what your hair would actually look like. It would kind of look like several different strands, different sections of hair that all kind of lay together. And don't stop until you actually get to the top of the head. And that's going to make your hair look a lot more realistic than if you just try to draw it way up here on the top. So remember that the hair should go from here all the way to the top, and then if it's long it should go behind the ears. If you have bangs, which some people do, the part that hangs down over your forehead and maybe even into your eyes, that would go below this line, and that would just hang down like this. Alright, so that's a good basic tutorial on how to finish up your hair. That's the first thing you need to do. Once you finish that, you'll be ready to start practicing the color blending. I want you to flip your paper over and I want you to try the color blending on the back side. When you're doing color blending, you need to pick out lighter and darker colors. For example, I've got lighter blue and darker blue, lighter yellow, darker yellow, and those are the colors that you want to try to blend. Just to keep it simple, we're just going to do simple shapes such as a circle. Always start with your lighter color. I'm just going to draw one circle and then just quickly fill it in. It doesn't have to be perfect at first. It doesn't have to be super neat. It doesn't have to cover every single little bit because we're going to end up doing lots and lots and lots of layers. Now I'm going to go around just the edges. I'm not pressing down very hard, but I'm going around just the edges of my circle with my darker color. This is going to make our circle look a little bit more three-dimensional, make it look like an actual sphere by making it darker around the edges and lighter in the middle. Okay? Now I'm going to go over the whole thing, even those dark parts that I just did, with my light blue again. Pressing down a little bit harder, you can see that I'm making it a little bit darker now. But I'm going all the way to the edge. I'm actually covering up that darker blue that I already did, but it's still there. That's why you want to have two different colors. You want to have a lighter color and a darker color, because you still want to be able to see that darker color. Alright, got a little bit of better coverage. Now I'm going to go over the dark again. Once again, pressing down a little bit harder. And this time I'm going to go in circles with my dark colored pencil. I'm using circles, kind of like the curly cues that I just used for the curly hair. And that's going to help to blend those colors together. So that it's kind of hard to tell where the dark color ends and the light color begins. When you do straight lines and when you just kind of color, kind of do a scribble scrabble like that, just doesn't look as finished, doesn't look as smooth, doesn't look as realistic. Alright, and then for a final little bit, I could do those circles again, pressing down really hard this time with my lightest color. And this is really going to finish everything off, really cover up all of those little white spots that are still showing through. Really going to blend everything together so it looks nice and dark on the outside, a little bit lighter in the middle, and if you even wanted to, you could use a white colored pencil. And you could do the same kind of thing. Just go over the middle, press down pretty hard, just in the middle to kind of lighten it up. Almost do like a tornado effect, all the way from the middle to the outside, and that'll blend the colors really well. Let's try it again with another color just to have a contrast. We'll do yellow. When I'm filling in my first lightest color, I usually hold my pencil on its side instead of on the point. And that actually makes it a little bit easier and quicker to fill in the shape. It looks a little bit smoother too. I'm going to use this orange as my darker color around the edges. Not pressing down very hard, just doing enough to kind of get it started so that I can see where my edges are. Then when I start going over it with layer after layer after layer after layer after layer, that's when all those colors start to blend together really well. Alright, now I'm ready to go over everything, even my orange marks with my yellow again. Trying to cover up a little bit more of that white that was poking through. Now I'm going to use those circle lines, not holding it on its side anymore. Just using those circle lines to kind of blend this orange and yellow together. And since yellow is such a light color, I'm probably not going to try doing the white in the middle, because I don't even think it's going to do much. I don't even think it's going to look very different, because yellow is already such a light color as it is. I'm just going to do these circles to blend my orange in a little bit. Give that nice thick darkness on the outside. And then my last little bit, I might just want to go over everything again one more time, nice and hard with my yellow pencil, and that's going to really smooth everything out. This is the technique that I want you to use. Darker on the outside, lighter in the middle, darker on the outside, lighter in the middle, as you color the face. Now, as you color the face, you're going to have to kind of get creative with figuring out which color to use for your skin. If I were you, I would hold them up to your skin, your actual hand, and see which one is the closest. You might see that the brown is the closest, but maybe you're not that dark brown, so you'll just have to be really light and not press down very hard if you use that. For me, looking at these three colors, the one that's the closest to my skin is probably this golden color. So that's probably what I'm going to use for my skin, and maybe mix a little bit of the orange as my darker color on the edges. I'll see how that looks. In the meantime, I want you to go ahead and begin practicing on the back of your sheet with mixing the colors until you can get the same really smooth, really soft effect that Miss Specht has. When you do get that effect and Miss Specht checks it off and says that you've done it correctly, you can flip your paper over and start coloring your face.